If you ejaculate about 20 minutes before bed, then what you'll actually experience is belly breathing is bullshit. All of a sudden, your body is fucking wired. That's when you know your symptoms are actually getting better or worse. This is something I try to live as strongly and closely to as possible. What's up everyone, my name is Ruh. My background is in biomedical physiology and I'm here in Bali holding my first MasterMind. It's a crazy event. I'm so happy with the turnout. We have 6 to 9 figure entrepreneurs here and I'm willing to share everything I know to help better their lives. That's what I'm truly in it for, to be a service to others. You're watching this video, I hope you get a bunch of value from it as well. If there's anything else I can provide for you, you let me know. So my upbringing was actually quite difficult. I had a lot of these stereotypical traumas that people go experience. There was poverty, there was racism, there was drugs, crime, violence, there was religious oppression. I had it all pretty much, and that had a huge psychological impact on me. I wasn't able to express the person I wanted to be. That actually manifested, in my opinion, into a lot of physiological problems. I had, gut dysfunction, which I think does have a psychological component to it. I had neuroinflammation, which means that I wouldn't be even able to have this conversation in front of you. So my background is in biomedical physiology. My 4th year, I did research into early onset Alzheimer's. At 27, I thought I was experiencing Alzheimer's because if I was having a conversation with somebody, I would forget my train of thought. I would just completely blank out where I was trying to take the conversation. That was at 27. So I had that. I had physical pains. I broken 11 bones. I had lower back pain to the point where I was considering doing surgery. I couldn't squat. I couldn't lift. I identified myself as a fitness guy, but I couldn't train. So there was a huge lapse. There was this cognitive dissonance in all areas of my life. I also had, truth be told, I had depression. I didn't feel good about myself. At points, I thought, what am I even doing with my life? I had all this potential when I was going to school. Everyone told me that, I was supposed to be some big, great thing. I never lived up to it. Until I started working on myself. Until I started doing the things that other people weren't. Until I started remapping everything I knew about health. What if everything we did know about health was wrong? I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think a lot of you are these driven, ambitious, already well put together individuals. You probably already have an interest in health and you've done a lot of things. But I think for the general public, they don't even understand what true health feels like. Maybe I could argue that you guys might not either, because I still don't, because I still keep getting better. I always find another tool, another supplement, another practice, something like IV therapy, anything. There's some crazy technologies that are coming into our lives right now that are giving us the opportunity to get into super physiological human performance. Stem cell therapies, exosomes, the Brian Johnson kind of catalog. And I think that all of us should be considering those things because, again, the things that you aren't doing are the things that are holding you back. So I bet you everyone here has at least one bottleneck that's affecting them. Something in their life. Across the 3 pillars I mentioned, physiological, psychological, or physical, that is a limiting factor. I'm here today to hopefully solve that for each and every single one of you. And that's why I want each and every single one of you to ask me a question about how I could actually provide the answer for you. Also on this board, you'll see that I've done what's kind of a pseudo Eisenhower matrix. There's the cheap, there's the expensive, there's the easy, there's the hard. I've coached 500 people. Not a single one of them that I've originally coached has known how to breathe properly, which is weird because everyone's breathing right now. You're not dying, you're not suffocating. But breath is the master regulator of your nervous system. Optimizing, handling, regulating the nervous system is one of the most important things you could do. Actually, I think I'll start with that. I'll show you how much breath has an impact on an individual. Because once you master breath, you can master the nervous system. Once you master the nervous system, it feeds into all these other areas of your life. Your body, your physiology, your hormones. If you're not breathing right, your sympathetic nervous system is wired to the fucking brim. You're too sympathetic, your cortisol increases. The cortisol increases, it inhibits the hypothalamic pituitary function of your brain. Now you're not pushing out as much testosterone because that downstream cascade affects how your testicular function operates. The physiological affects the physical affects the psychological affects the physiological. It's all intertwined. If you're not considering any of those routes, you're actually not considering how to optimize your health properly. When we breathe properly, everything feels calm. Everything is more regulated, your focus is much more optimized. You can rest, digest, sex, that's the parasympathetic nervous system, because it's all regulated to the breath. Everyone knows Wim Hof, right? You do the Wim Hof breathing, that turns you sympathetic. I'm gonna teach you how to turn parasympathetic, right? Ice bath is sympathetic. You go in there, you get shocked. You're breathing. That is how most of us breathe on a day-to-day basis. We just don't understand it. Most of us hyperventilate. You're wearing a whoop strap. I'm wearing a whoop strap. My respiratory rate is fucking through the roof right now. Why? Because I sit in front of a computer. I get stimulated by blue light exposure the whole time through. That turns my brain into sympathetic. And what does that create for me in the future? I don't digest properly. I have poor circulation because the more sympathetic you are, the more adrenaline you're releasing throughout your system. So I'm gonna show you exactly what I do. As you're focusing on me, notice where my finger is to the ground contact point. Now I'm not cheating. I could lift my shoulder up to get my hand down, but I'm gonna try to be as honest as possible in the interpretation of where this is, where the internal rotation is, where the external rotation, and this is terrible by the way, it shouldn't be this bad, right? That's where I get. Now I could go here, elbow lifts up. This is also gonna be pretty much uniform throughout my body. This is my hip flexion, external rotation, internal rotation. So none of it is very good. Now if I learn how to breathe properly, I could show you how much of a change I could create in my body immediately. So I'm gonna take 2 to 3 breaths here. Do you guys remember where my internal rotation was? It's there. My external rotation, here. Internal rotation, again, not trying to cheat, right there. External rotation to the ground. Hip flexion, maybe 15, 20 degrees. Better external, better internal. That was all done through the breath. When I say the breath regulates your body, your nervous system, that's one of the methods we actually create our client results. If you can just go stretch, it's a very long-term play and maybe not even effective way to create mobility, to create that parasympathetic response. Imagine that your full day is undergone and it feels like you can't take a full breath. Imagine you're in this beautiful environment, you're outside, you're trying to look at nature, but it feels like your rib cage, like the way your brain perceives it, feels like there's like a straitjacket around it, right? Because what I did right now is I opened up my rib cage. I changed the shape of the rib cage. That's why I created mobility through my joints. Imagine that you don't ever do that. It's like you walk every day with a straitjacket on. That's you not being able to fully expand front to back laterally. All of a sudden, what your body has to do is use superficial muscles, like these strong elevators, through your traps to get you that breath that you so desperately need, right? But boom, you do that, you calm your nervous system, you open up your rib cage, you allow your body to expand in the right direction, your stress goes down. Now, I think everybody here has to be focused on stress. The reason I say that is humans technically should be following a stress adaptation protocol. You should stress your body out and then you should adapt. We live in a very sympathetic drive that's always being stressed. That's not gonna be beneficial long-term. It won't help you build muscle. It will actually degrade your brain function over time. It will make it so that you're not absorbing nutrients as well. Stress is like the silent killer. It's like the slow drip of poison throughout your life. I'm an open book. I want to bring as much value to you guys as possible. I've done my little kind of information onslaught of why we need to think about these things, the stress adaptation cycle, the nervous system regulation. I'm talking to entrepreneurs, so I'm keeping it specific to that. But if I could maybe open up the conversation, what is an entrepreneurial problem that somebody is facing right now that they need help with. So pretty much what I've built is a bunch of supplements that I would take every time my immune system feels like it's getting a little bit shut down. Why? Because it needs the support. There's antioxidants there, anti-inflammatories there, things that help with like that immune response. It builds it up. So I'm gonna write a couple down. So what I personally put on mine every time is curcumin. I put boswellia. I put quercetin. So immune, curcumin, boswellia, quercetin, zinc. Honestly, there's a lot. I could add more, but that's a really good basic stack. These are like, they kind of cover a couple different pathways, as long as it's not like parasite or let's say bacteria related. So take that whenever you're sick, do a dose morning and night, see how your body reacts. Supplements are very advantageous if done properly. If you're going to do supplements and they are not formulated properly or encapsulated properly, you're probably not going to get the actual benefits of it. These are the kind of compounds that are going to be allowing you to absorb the nutrients. A lot of times we add bioperine into the supplement stack, so it makes our gut membrane more porous. It allows better systemic absorption. Side note, if everything has bioperine, you're gonna have less gut effects, more systemic effects. So if you're doing curcumin to calm bally belly, you don't want it with bioperine because you want the curcumin to stay in your gut for the most part. You also don't want, if you have bally belly, you don't want anything that has pepper in it because your gut is already porous. You want to close the tight junctions, the gaps in your gut. So you would never want to take something that makes it more porous because that will just increase the diarrhea flow that you have. So there's nuances, there's details. Everything like this is part of the consideration when we're creating supplement stacks. Curcumin with bioperine or pepper lets you have cognitive and systemic effects. Curcumin without that will help you with your gut. And curcumin is a great gut supplement too. How you respond to an ice bath is depending on the length of usage. So if you do a 10 to 15 second ice bath, what you're gonna do is an immediate dump of adrenaline, which is like also connected to dopamine. But if you do a longer duration one, you're actually stressing your body to the point where you might actually get cortisol release. So my advice to you would be only do it for 10 to 15 seconds in the evening to minimize the likelihood that the cortisol will spike and remain elevated, which would disrupt your sleep pattern. Our goal in the evening is to be able to lower our body temperature as much as possible, right? It's one of the signs that our body receives to allow us to actually increase melatonin production and get into a calm state. If you do a sauna, typically what is going to happen is 3 to 4 hours into the experience, your body is still trying to regulate its temperature, right? So I would recommend doing a sauna 3 to 4 hours before your actual bedtime. Inflammation is our friend, it's not our enemy. We need the inflammation. The whole point of the workout is to create inflammation in the muscle tissue to signal the body to allocate resources in its repair, to create more nutrients available in that area. Nutrients go and restore the muscle structural components. You do an ice bath, all of a sudden you're signaling to your body, I don't want inflammation. That signal that you just did working out gets decreased. Now you're not getting the best bang for your buck. Now, again, is it going to be something that a 15-second ice bath is going to have a massive outcome? No. I actually love doing a 15-second ice bath after a workout because what I'm hypothetically assuming is I'll get that dopamine and like adrenaline signal that will maybe freshen me up for the rest of the day without technically decreasing the amount of muscle growth that I will create. Now, if you do longer duration ones, probably you're going to get more negative detriments to it. The things that we interact with the most in life is light and air, right? Like if you think about it from a cell, the cell was first created and the only two things it really knew how to react to was the environment around it and the light that it was exposed to, right? So plants create energy from light. Mitochondria react to light. Mitochondria are inside our bodies. We react to light. okay? So regarding the circadian biology, the more we adapt our behaviors, our lifestyle to how light is functioning in the world, the more probably our biology is, let's say, in line with how it's supposed to function. When we do blue light exposure in the evening, we're going against our circadian biology. When we do an ice bath in the evening, I would hypothesize, I would guess, that we're going against our circadian biology. At nighttime, you do an ice bath, all of a sudden your body is fucking wired. It gets a massive dump of adrenaline. Technically, we should be in a cave somewhere hiding, trying to stay away from predators, right? So personally, I don't like doing ice baths in the evening because I'm like, does this actually make sense with how my body was wired? Now, I'm not gonna make that a staple because, you know, we don't live in a primal, like fucking Paleolithic time. We live in modern worlds. We have to have modern world adaptations. Yawns, what's the point of a yawn, right? You can see it happen in like cats a lot. They'll wake up and immediately when they wake up, they yawn. They do this big stretch. When you're sleepy, you're yawning. It's a way to actually, in my opinion, regulate your nervous system, so I think you're spot on. A yawn is technically supposed to be parasympathetic because what you're doing is you're getting this massive delay in your typical breathing pattern. You're doing a big inhalation and then it's like, and then you pause afterwards, right? And that actually regulates the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide that you're exchanging in your biology, right? So CO2, the more CO2 you have in your body, carbon dioxide, the more parasympathetic you are going to be. You have receptors for CO2. When those receptors feel high CO2, it's calm state. You vasodilate. If those receptors feel low CO2, it's sympathetic. So your body is trying to force its way into regulating itself, right? And it's using the yawn as a method to it. So that breathing pattern I did at the beginning of the presentation is something that you should definitely integrate into your life. Understanding why you are having this urge to breathe differently is going to be related to all of your health and lifestyle factors. But you already got it. It's stress. If you're yawning a lot, like think about all the times that you're either bored, and when you're bored, your body's like telling you the signal, bro, go to bed, right? So you start yawning. It's like, this is a perfect time for you to recover. If you have a great night's sleep, even if you're bored, you're probably not gonna yawn, or maybe you will, but you're probably not gonna yawn. The yawning usually occurs when your nervous system is fried and when you're tired. My recommendation for everyone here, and this is something I try to live as strongly and closely to as possible, is to always start your fast 4 hours before you go to sleep. Let's say I'm eating food. I want it 4 hours before because that's gonna pass my mouth, go into my stomach, digest in my stomach, go to the small intestine, and then get shuttled into a large intestine. In the large intestine, it could spend 20 hours there. I don't give a fuck. That's good. I want that process to occur. When you come, one of the things that happens is you get a big increase in prolactin, right? That is like, I'm just gonna speak on this because I haven't actually maybe I'll chat GPT some other answers soon. But I know that if your prolactin is high, you get like this downregulation of your, let's say, focus, attention, things along those lines, right? But there's some other things too, is like, if you're like really suffering from ADHD and scrolling Instagrams, having some post-nut clarity might actually also help you. So it really is contextual, but I would say that if you're trying to maximize the outcomes of what that release will do for you, you want it as late as night as possible because it's not just the prolactin. Now I'm thinking a little bit more about it. The oxytocin, the endorphins, the nervous system regulation of going from when you come, you have to actually get sympathetic. And then right after you come, the prolactin takes you back down to parasympathetic and kind of takes you back down into a restful state. Like if you come 20 minutes before if you ejaculate, have an orgasm, let's keep it a little bit more professional. if you ejaculate about 20 minutes before bed, then what you'll actually experience is a better deep sleep score because of that parasympathetic state that you've kind of manipulated into your life. This is your lateral expansion. So it kind of works as if you're doing a rib cage, right? A bucket handle. There's a pail, there's a bucket handle. You want that bucket handle to raise. So you'll get superior and lateral expansion. So when you breathe in, I am breathing in. Watch my thumbs. There should be that lateral expansion that occurs. Shoulders stay down, only the bottom, the base of your rib cage opens up. So that is lateral expansion. The second part of good mechanical breath is this pump handle. So think about a fire and those little pumps that like stoke the fire. That's happening in this vertical direction when my rib cage opens up. So what I want to do is have this finger point a little bit more towards my chest because my chest lifts up. So breathing in. When I breathe in like that, notice I'm not extending the spine to get the finger to turn into a different direction. It's actually specifically the rib cage opening up. So again, breathing in. It should feel like the top of my rib cage is expanding. The last one is called posterior expansion. There's also the caliper mechanism, but we don't need to worry about that. Hug yourself, elbows pointed in front of you, both on symmetrical sides. And when you take a breath, there's going to be an expansion of your backside. You should feel a little bit of a stretch between your spine and your shoulder blades, but really the elbows have to be pointed forward and stack one arm on top of each other. If you cross, it's going to be very hard to do it. So stack. So bring the left elbow down. Everyone's good. Eric, left elbow down. Like you're like this right now. Yeah, like this. Elbows forward. Good. Squeeze tighter. And then when you breathe, you should feel your back open now. How does it feel? No, yeah, and now elbows together more. And then everyone lower their shoulders. Relax. Okay, that's the 3 points of the breath. That's what a biomechanically sound breathing mechanism feels like. That is 80% there, right? There's a little bit of nuance that everyone has because you are all unique cosmic snowflakes, stardust particles in your own rights. So we would have to customize the process for each of you specifically, because let's face it, everyone here has a different shape. Their rib cage is either trapezoidal, square, triangular, whatever the case might be. That influences a little bit about how you breathe in and how the pressure gets regulated. Belly breathing is bullshit. So I don't know if anybody believes that you should, I shouldn't say it's bullshit, but it's actually not the complete answer. The way I describe it is just because something makes you better doesn't mean that it was right in the first place. For example, you have low energy, you drink a coffee, your energy is better, but that doesn't mean that you've solved the root cause of the dysfunction. We don't have lungs in our stomach, we have lungs in our rib cage. So breathing through my stomach, inherently what is gonna happen is to be able to expand here, I have to compress here. So now when I breathe in, if I want to go through my belly, my ribcage doesn't move. Actually, when I do that, I feel stress. And like legitimately, it feels so uncomfortable to me because it's not the way we were supposed to breathe. So if you're pushing air to your belly, it's actually going to cause you to create a lot more dysfunction in your biology. Ideally, what I would suggest is if you want to breathe out through your mouth, it's fine, but it has to be passive. If we want the most calming breath, think of it as a passive exhalation. So it has to open mouth, like a balloon is just deflating without you putting any squeeze on it, right? But I just recommend breathing through the nose as often as possible. When you breathe through your nose properly, you're actually going to get better diaphragmatic activation. When you breathe through your mouth, what happens is the airway opening, it changes. Like our mouth is much more of an open volume than our nose is. So when we breathe through our mouth, we have an increased rate of volume coming in. That's going to make it so that our body has to react to the increased volume by creating as much space as fast as possible. Therefore, our traps get involved, so we elevate our traps. Our secondary inhalators get involved, so like there's more of this force. When we breathe through our secondary inhalators, we're actually creating more sympathetic nervous system response. So it stresses us. Breathe through your nose. Allows you to slow the rate of inhalation down, causing your diaphragm to actually get recruited better. Okay, this is my current state of health now. What is my trajectory if this is optimal, and this is like day 0, and then this is day, like, let's say 1000, right? You need to be able to understand where you land on the spectrum over time to be able to understand how you could balance your way, roadmap your life, pretty much. If you don't have this data, you will never understand as a 40-year-old how you should feel, as a 35-year-old how you should feel. Because when you can go back to that baseline, measure yourself against yourself, you understand also how you're going to be able to retain the best features of yourself. Comparing yourself to yourself as well is the most important thing that you could do, because that's when you know your symptoms are actually getting better or worse. And it's really solving the human, it's never about solving the data. That's the thing that a lot of people mistake. It's like, oh, if my numbers are at a certain region, then I should feel better or worse, right? Like, maybe that's why. But it's not necessarily the case. There's such a psychological component to all these factors. There's things that we can not really measure unless we do very specific testing to understand. For example, like, a lot of people have come to me for like ED or libido issues, right? Well, testing testosterone alone isn't going to give you the complete picture, because there's the nitric oxide component to it. There's the fact of whether or not we could actually create blood flow into that region. How are you going to test that, right? And that's the difficulty about like blood panels in general, is that yes, you could take a current snapshot of the individual, like a photo frame of the individual, but you don't really know like well, you could tell the operating system to a certain degree, but you can't tell every component. You can't tell like the thoughts and feelings that that person is experiencing fully at that moment, right? That's those like abstract things that need to be integrated in the whole process. I would highly recommend you get blood panels. Blood panels will give you, let's say, it will get you 40% of the way to understanding at least your body, like the internal mechanisms of your body. So genetics is like, it's like computer coding, right? It's literally like the ones and zeros that create the user interface of the website that we work with, right? This is the user interface. The genetics, AGCT, is what is the coding system inside our body, right? I am coded to be a 5'7", Afghani heritage person, right? You guys are all individually coded in your own fashion from your heritage. Although we share a lot of the coding, it's not the same, right? And the important part is like how we like metabolize sugar, how we metabolize carbs, fat, protein. All of that is based on your code. So everyone says, oh, should I be on a carnivore diet? Should I be on this type of diet? Should I be taking this supplement in the morning or this supplement at night? It's like, okay, we could have an answer for you, but the answer we have to create is through understanding what your body needs through a blood panel, understanding how it reacts via the blood panel, but also thinking about the genetic predispositions that allow you to have something or not have something. So Genetics, $400 to $600, they'll give you a fucking fat list of everything that your body is typically predisposed to showcasing. In my opinion, you have to build up to using stem cells. There's a protocol. Like some of these things, like you could ask me and I'd be like, I'll put you on it tomorrow, right? It's fine. With the stem cell protocol, I would want you to do a blood panel first. I would want you to go through a fasting protocol first, try to clear as much senescent cells as possible, which I could explain if you guys are interested. And then we build like a scaffolding or some kind of tissue-specific signaling to be able to localize the stem cell to that joint to be able to get the effects that we want. You could also just inject it systemically, but then you're kind of just rolling the dice on whether it's beneficial or not. And stem cells are not guaranteed to like work for everyone, right? You have to build a driving engine for it to actually go in the direction you want. It's a good question. Like, we have to understand why the brain fog is occurring. Like, brain fog occurs sometimes just because like these neurotransmitters are not operating like foundationally well. Is it neuroinflammation? So is it something that is causing your whole body's processes to go down? So then you just take neuro anti-inflammatories. The best one for that is called PEA. palmitoyl amide, something like that. That's a really good one for brain fog. So if anybody suffers from it, try that out for a couple weeks. Brain fog is also blood flow. So if you have brain fog, then I would also think about pycnogenol. So this one is helping with blood circulation throughout your whole body, and then these two together will create good circulation and anti-inflammatory to the brain. I have an idea. I'm gonna ask a question about what maybe is a goal of yours, and I'll tell you which peptides you could use. So it'll be very specific to each of you. First of all, peptides are safe. They're protein structures. They're not steroidal. They're not fat-based. Peptide turns one thing on and then it says, peace out, I'm good. But there's peptides for everything. There's peptides for beauty. There's peptides for skin. There's peptides for hair. There's peptides for muscle regeneration, cartilage regeneration, brain regeneration. You could use it in multiple different ways. You could take it orally. You could take it through a nasal spray. That's what I recommend. Who feels like they're stressed and they just want to decrease their stress throughout the day? So the people that have their hands raised, you want to look into C-Link. So when you take C-Link during the workday, what you might feel is that you're just able to handle the business calls, the workload, everything a little bit more effectively, right? And it's something that you could compound over time and it gets better and better with the use, okay? There's another compound that works similar to this, but it also helps you with like actually getting smarter. So if anybody wants to get smarter, like anybody interested in that? So then you would maybe switch away from C-Link to C-Max. I mean, certain ones, yes, but the ones I'm recommending, probably not. So I'll tell you, like C-Max, it increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor. The only person I wouldn't recommend this to is people that are experiencing hair loss and don't want more hair loss, right? In which case, go towards C-Link, right? So there is use case potential for each of these, like or specificity for the individual. BDNF, that would be the C-Max one. The C-Max one would be really good. And then cerebrolysin is also really, really good for enhancing memory. My memory actually got way better. Like, I think I got like a 10-15% improvement in memory, at least. Deep sleep inducing peptide. Who has sleep problems? Try this out. So there's also another one called pinealon. Both of these could be really beneficial for enhancing sleep. DSIP is deep sleep inducing peptide. I did it about 2 years ago consistently, and I just have a new spray bottle that's getting delivered. I used to inject it. So the spray bottle should be even more effective, but it's just allowing the signaling processes for growth hormone release to be enhanced when you go to sleep. So if people have low deep sleep metrics, DSIP can help you with that. If there's one most important thing that I would say that somebody has to get right, it's their mindset. Like, okay, I can tell you exactly what to eat, but you know, how you feel is gonna dictate whether you eat it or not. Like, and that's another thing is like some people ask me, what's the most important thing I need to do for myself? It's like, I need to know what the most important thing for you to do is, because it's not gonna be the same for everyone. Because some people are so dialed in with nutrition, some people are so dialed in with fitness, some people are so dialed in with whatever it is. I could tell somebody to take a supplement, they'll be like, fuck yeah. I could tell somebody else, they'll be like, no, that's just bullshit. It doesn't make a difference in my life. Peptides, somebody's like, fucking pin me up. Other person's like, there's no way I'm putting a needle in my body, right? Everyone's different, but one thing that we all have in common is this mind-body-soul connection, which is incredibly powerful. And the only reason you might not feel that way right now is because you haven't actually explored it deeply enough. And that's the thing that is, if there's one message I could fucking convey to you is explore this all. Explore everything here, safely, appropriately, under the right guidance, under supervision. And psychology, when you ask psychology is everything. It's like belief systems in our brain. It's experiences we've had in the past. The best way I can describe it is like, and this is gonna transition really well to our next guest speaker here, because he works a lot with these kind of issues and helps people actually break free of them in a very, very expedited fashion. That's why they pay him the big bucks, right? But the truth is that these inner belief systems that we have about ourselves, about our environment, were created in us as children because nobody guided us the proper way. So, for example, if I feel unconfident, right? Or actually the best example is like, there's a child running across the playground, they fall, they trip, they scrap, they skin their knee, and then they wake up and stand up. There's nobody around them to help them, guide them through that experience. What they're gonna think is, potentially, I'm never gonna run again because running is what causes me pain. You know, now they have built this belief system where the mechanism has only one outcome. That's the same thing that happens for a lot of people. It happens for them whether it's like approaching a girl or being successful in a business, or it could be like how they show up in confidence in front of a crowd, or it could be like whether they can perform under pressure in that last minute of the basketball game. All of these things are just belief systems that have been integrated into us, and they're not always rational, because as a child, we've had to make sense of the world around us. We've had to be like, okay, I'm getting this stimulus, and if I don't have the right environment to actually show me all sides of that stimulus, I might just perceive it in the only way that makes sense to me. Driving is unsafe. Going on planes is dangerous. Spiders will kill me. The deeper layers of this might be like the things that really fuck us up though, right? It's like, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not capable of creating or providing because somebody didn't give me the acknowledgement or love that I should have received in that moment. And the thing is, it's only when we work on these things for ourselves, created in ourselves, by ourselves, for ourselves, that's when we actually break free of it. If I could say something, last maybe point, it's like there's nobody's job is to love you. Like it wasn't your mom's, it wasn't your dad's, not your partner's. The only person that's meant to love you is yourself, right? There's like literally, you have to find that within yourself. Like there's no such thing as unconditional love. As hard as it might seem, it's like a truth that we have to face because of the human instinct, the human evolutionary concept. Like I still want to believe that there is love out there. I'm chasing it. Like again, my whole ethos is around love. But learning self-love is the hardest process anybody can undertake because it makes you face all the dark sides, the mirrors, the things that happen to you that you don't want to face. But through that pain comes your purpose. Through that pain comes your enlightenment. And through that, you can actually get to that place where you're fully expressing yourself. And like, from my personal experience, that's kind of where I'm getting to now. Like, so I hope you guys all get to it as well. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't work on myself for that much.